Chapter 526, Killing Amidst the Chaos. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry pressed forward, but after crashing into several ice walls, their momentum finally slowed. Happy's team of thieves closed in. They didn't ask for any single target or look for any route. They simply placed a trap wherever there was free space. Everyone put down as many traps as possible and then immediately retreated far, far away. Pung 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 pung. Moments later, the sounds of ice walls breaking stopped. The charge made by the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry had been completely stopped. Numerous ice walls still stood. Needless to say, after the cavalry was forced to a halt, the leading Aquamarine Knight brandished his sword and shattered the ice wall in front of him with a single swing. Advance. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry continued to head towards their intended target. Several ice walls were quickly smashed apart by them. The ice fragments sprinkled all over the ground. The scene didn't look like it belonged in a desert. However, no one had any time to appreciate it. Everyone could already see the light glinting from the Aquamarine Knight's sword. At this moment, the mage team fell back. The knights moved forward to create a defensive line. Shields up, Lord Grim ordered. The knights in front lifted their shields and hid behind them. Clerics, get ready. When Lord Grim gave his second order, the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry arrived. Except this time, the short distance between them wasn't enough for a full charge. The Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry strided over and raised their swords. Dong 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 dong. The sounds of metal colliding with metal repeatedly rang. The knights didn't care if there were even enemies in front of them. All of them raised their shields in front of them at a 45-degree angle. The knights who were attacked could clearly feel their shields bouncing back and forth. Blocking the fierce attacks affected their control over their characters. Their health also fell like waterfalls with every attack. In this type of situation, even if there were clerics healing, the knights were already worried if they would be able to properly block the second attack. Fortunately, Lord Grim didn't have them take the second attack. When the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry made their first swing, Lord Grim gave another order. Ninjas. Underground tunneling technique, body bind technique. While the Aquamarine Knight had been busy breaking through the ice walls, the ninjas had hidden themselves under the sand. Now, they popped out of the sand and into the air and threw the rope attached to their ninja blades towards the knights on horseback. They didn't have any targets in mind and simply aimed at whoever was the most convenient target. There might be slip-ups or repeats, but those weren't important. It was more important that they took the opportunity in front of them. Yishu knew very well how unskilled his happy players were, so he didn't set up anything complicated or difficult. The mages cast ice walls, easy. The thieves set traps, simple. The knights block an attack, no need to talk about it. The ninjas had a slightly more difficult task because their underground tunneling technique and body bind technique were combos. Both of them had to be chained correctly and the body bind technique had to be used in the air. It was an easy task for any Heavenly Domain player, but it wasn't so easy for these 10th server noobs. As a result, Yishu didn't have any requirements. All they needed to do was hit whatever target they could and not care about anyone else. A few of the attacks might be repeated, but a single person's mistake could be made up by someone else. A few attacks might miss, but even more mistakes would occur with anything more complicated anyways. The 30 or so ninjas launched their attacks against the 19 Aquamarine Knight cavalry mobs. It was nearly a 2-to-1 ratio, but because Yishu didn't put any requirements for them, there might be a target hit by several attacks or there might be a target hit by none. In any case, people went up and horses reared. The majority of the knights hit by the tunnel bind combo were dismounted. Some of them were hit, but didn't fall and the ninjas ended up on the horses. This wasn't strange. After all, the Aquamarine Knight was a wild boss. All of his underlings were powerful elite monsters and had strong resistance towards many attacks. If the player didn't aim correctly, the intended effect might not occur. Battle mages, circle swing. At this moment, another wave of attacks flew out. The battle mage team pincered from the left and right. After the ninjas used the tunnel bind combo, the battle mages immediately stabbed at the knights who hadn't fallen off their horses. Some of their attacks might miss or might be late, but in the end, the remaining mounted knights were thrown off. One wave after another wave came. Moreover, when these knights fell, there was small shockwaves, knocking the ones lifted off by the ninjas back down to the ground. Witches, level 50 and up use Dal Shururu, under level 50 use Lava Flask, Ice Rain. Launchers, Stinger. Spitfire, Incendiary Device. Mechanics, Machine Drop. Summoners, surround them with pets. Berserkers. Brawlers. Chi Masters. Lord Grimm gave out order after order. Yi Shu had already set the chat up so that besides him, no one else would be able to speak, so no one would be distracted by any messages other than the orders. Happy's players continued doing their tasks. Witches flew through the air, bombarding the cavalry with the items that Lord Grimm had instructed them to throw down. Bang 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 bang. The launchers stood at the backlines and shot their stingers into the air. The stingers flew over everyone's heads and exploded above the cavalry. Each missile exploded into 8 smaller missiles, which rained down onto the battlefield. The Spitfire's incendiary devices worked together with the lava flasks thrown down by the witches and transformed the sand with a sea of fire. The mechanics' air drops filled the skies with winter melons. Their stomachs opened and poured down trash. The summoned creatures advanced and filled up the little space left. The other classes also attacked. In an instant, the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry were submerged in attacks. In this area, the only thing that could be seen were struggling shadows. Nothing else could be seen clearly. Don't squeeze. Let me go through. I still haven't used my skill. You berserker, you've already used your skill, right? If you're done, move aside. Whose goblin is this? Can't you let me go through? Don't make me kill it. Ah, who hit my butt? Amidst the noise from attacks, the constant yelling from Happy's players could be heard too. The spies within Happy followed along, but couldn't see anything properly either. As Glory veterans, Happy's way of fighting the boss was unbearable to look at. Everyone was crammed together as if they were in a crowded train. But they also discovered that their coordination might look unsightly, and every person contributed to the fight. Everyone attacked and moved. Of the around 600 people in the guild, not a single one was left doing nothing. The spies were at a loss. They had already received orders to find some way to stop Happy from killing the Aquamarine Knight, but in this chaotic mess, there was nothing they could do because the battle had already reached an unimaginable step. It might be chaotic, but the attacks continued. How were they supposed to stop it? Make the battle organized? Watching from inside the battle, Happy looked like a complete mess, but from afar, it looked like a war zone filled with fire, spells, sword light. It looked like a highlight reel for skills. Currently, all of the level 50 and under skills were flashing left and right. The surrounding players entered and exited kept this bustling movement going. The remaining players of the 13 guilds stared in complete astonishment. The feeling they got from the spies was completely different. They felt it was a next-level boss battle. The Aquamarine Knight's cavalry had been surrounded by these players and were struggling, helpless to do anything. Pay attention, don't harm your own allies. Yi Shu repeatedly sent out this order. There was nothing he could do about it. Apart from special events, a 100-man group was the largest unit in Glory. Those in the same group couldn't injure each other, but anyone outside of their group could be hurt. Happy had 600 or 700 players, so there were 6 or 7 groups. In this type of situation, it was hard to avoid self-injury. These noobs weren't good at controlling their attacks. Ah, I think I killed one of them, someone suddenly shouted in surprise. The system had clearly notified him that he had killed off one of the Aquamarine Knight's subordinate. Ah, I killed one too. Even though there were around 600 players, the system could tell them apart and gave out system notifications accordingly. I killed one. I also killed one. The Aquamarine Knight's underlings had the same stats. Against a relatively similar offense, they would all fall around the same time. Chapter 527, Treasure. Around 600 players were attacking. How long would it take to kill a boss? Very few knew the answer to this question. It was also difficult to find a precise answer to this type of question. Coordination, skill, equipment, levels, classes, target, there were simply too many factors involved. However, the speed at which the Aquamarine Knight and his cavalry were being destroyed by Guild Happy was extremely frightening. The Aquamarine Knight's underlings fell one after the other until only the Aquamarine Knight remained. And the Aquamarine Knight? He was stronger than his subordinates, but his current situation was even worse than before. Before, against the strong offense, his knights had taken a defensive formation around him. His 18 knights formed a circle with him in the center, they even blocked the aerial attacks from above. But now, all of his underlings had fallen. Surrounding him, a mob of summoned creatures now took their places. Okay, besides Team 1, everyone stop attacking, Yi Shu immediately ordered. The poor summoned creatures had previously been there in order to act as meat shields against the enemy attacks. If Yi Shu didn't order everyone to stop, these creatures would die under their master's hands. The benefit of the people was that they listened, even more so for someone they admired like Lord Grimm. Under Yi Shu's command, everyone else apart from Team 1 stopped attacking and withdrew. When they looked back, they couldn't even see the boss anymore. The summoned creatures had completely enveloped the Aquamarine Knight. The light shining from his sword could still be seen though. Every time the Aquamarine Knight slashed, several summoned creatures let out shrill shrieks and died. When a summoned creature died, the creature could be summoned again, but the skill had a cooldown. The stronger the creature, the longer the cooldown and the greater the mana cost would be. Summoners frequently ran out of mana. Team 1, advance. Team 2, get ready. Team 3, rest. Yi Shu had split the summoners into 3 teams and controlled their pacing. Launchers, continue firing. Don't stop. Team 1 also had launchers. Even though the summoned creatures were in their way, it didn't affect them. Elementalists, keep firing too. Yi Shu ordered the elementalists to attack. Too easy. Yi Shu sighed. The Aquamarine Knight could see his health falling rapidly. All of his attacks just ended up hitting the summoned creatures. Even though he sometimes used a whirlwind slash to clear them away, he was facing a team of summoners. Each summoner could summon several creatures. With 3 teams rotating, he could hack at the creatures all he wanted, but he would never kill them all. Yi Shu had understood the Aquamarine Knight's patterns already. Killing it off like this wouldn't be a problem, even when the knight entered its enraged mode at 10% health. The knight's fury wouldn't change the situation. The only variable was the club guilds. However, their elites were currently all the way at Almartian. The people from before. Yi Shu looked at them. They were scattered around the desert, observing from far away. They didn't even dare to come close. What could they do? If backup arrived. But at this point, it was already too late for the backup to do anything. The traps he had the thieves set up ended up being unnecessary. Yi Shu carefully calculated and finally relaxed. This Aquamarine Knight wouldn't be able to escape. The Aquamarine Knight struggled. The Aquamarine Knight went berserk. The Aquamarine Knight fell. Everything happened extremely quickly. The spies could only give this description in their reports to their guild leaders. What type of boss battle was this? They thought about it deeply. It looked like everyone was just randomly attacking, but they could clearly see the orders Lord Grimm gave. With a commander leading everyone, how could it be called randomly attacking? It must be some sort of profound art. The spies screenshotted the orders Yi Shu gave and treated them like great achievements in their careers. Afterwards, they quickly sent them to their respective guild leaders, detailing Lord Grimm's incredible feat. Around 600 people killed a boss by attacking randomly. Whenever the spies chatted with others, they loved to talk about this experience. In their circle, this opening remark continued to stay popular for a long period of time. In the western desert, cheers erupted, becoming the only noise that could be heard in this area. Guild Happy's name appeared on TV. This made every single member of Happy feel extremely proud. Happy's fame had previously entirely been brought up by their guild leader, Lord Grimm. They had joined Happy, hoping to have their fame echo throughout the entire server just like Lord Grimm. This time, they finally got what they desired. Even though the system had only announced their guild's name, they could see their own names within the 2 words Guild Happy. At this moment, they didn't even pay attention to see what the boss dropped. This was supposed to be the reward for killing a boss, but right now, Happy had completely forgotten about it. It was only until half a minute later did someone finally think about the drops. In the guild chat, their guild leader Lord Grimm had already announced what had dropped. Orange equipment. Everyone grew excited. For normal players, there was no need to hold any expectation of getting a silver weapon. Those didn't even drop anyways. Orange equipment was their end goal. In Glory, orange equipment had the lowest drop rate. Many players could only admire the pictures of one online, especially for those only dropped by wild bosses. Wild bosses were monopolized by the big guilds, so how would a normal player ever get the chance to possess one? Everyone was still admiring this orange weapon, when Lord Grimm sent another message. This orange equip is the result of everyone's hard work, so this piece of equipment belongs to the guild. In a bit, I'm going to put it into the guild storage. When you go into the guild storage, you'll be able to see the rules for borrowing it. Oh. Happy's players didn't really understand it yet. They were somewhat at a loss at what Yishu meant by guild storage. Only the few experienced players understood what he meant and immediately became excited. If the equipment was put into the guild storage, it meant that once one reached a certain level of guild contribution, one could use it. Orange weapon. Even for old players, the majority of them had never possessed one before. Even though they might not be able to personally own one, they would still get the chance to use one if it was in the guild storage. These old players wanted to know what the necessary guild contribution was in order to use this weapon. An orange weapon should require quite a high amount of guild contribution. If they spent too much time accumulating points, their levels might become too high. Using a level 50 orange equipment at higher levels would still have lower stats than other equipment at the suitable level, but the word orange was too enticing. Some players didn't even care about stats and cared more about the rarity of an equipment. For them, equipment was more for showing off to others than the stats. In terms of stats, the orange equipment that dropped from the Aquamarine Knight was quite good. Desert Badge, level 50. Apart from basic magic resistance, it had +2 stamina, +5 movement speed, +5 jump, +5% magic resistance. This was a suitable accessory for any class. Magic resistance was the basic component for an accessory, but the additional stats, stamina, movement speed, jump, % magic resistance increase. All four of these were useful for any class. This dictated the value of Desert Badge compared to other accessories. Even Yishu was happy to see this item. The guild storage needed this type of treasure. An orange weapon might be more valuable than this Desert Badge, but a weapon could only be used by 1 or 2 classes. In other words, only 4 to 8% of Happy's players would want to use this piece of equipment. But a piece of equipment that could be used by any class was different. Everyone wanted it. This was exactly what he was hoping for. Yishu concluded the boss hunting activity and sent Blue River a message, "Let me take a look at your Blue Brook Guild storage." Blue River was looking at the exploding discussion group, when he suddenly received a message from Lord Grimm. He couldn't help but feel a bit diffident. "What did you get?" Blue River asked. Yishu sent a picture of the Desert Badge. Wow, Blue River was astonished. He was also considering it from a guild storage point of view. This equipment was extremely valuable. "Are you selling it?" Blue River asked. "In your dreams," Yishu said. Blue River suddenly remembered Yishu had asked to see his guild storage. Yishu was clearly planning on setting up Happy's storage system the same way as Blue Brook Guilds. "Should I give it to him?" Blue River hesitated. "Hurry up. There's no point hiding it. Who in Blue Brook Guild can't see it? I'm just too lazy to copy it down. It'd be more convenient if you just sent me a doc instead," Yishu said. "You don't have any spies in Blue Brook Guild?" Blue River was astonished. "If I had a spy, why would I need to ask you?" Yishu questioned Blue River's intelligence. Blue River swallowed his anger. There really wasn't any point hiding it though, so he sent Yishu a list of items in Blue Brook Guild's storage. Yishu quickly found the important parts and adjusted the values for Happy. Then, he copied and pasted it into Happy's storage system. Yishu quickly received a message from Blue River, "God, could I trouble you to replace the guild's name? Thanks." "Guild's name? You're using my guild's system setup. It has my guild's name on it. Don't you think you should change it to something like Guild Happy or something?" Blue River was about to grind his own teeth into dust. As soon as Lord Grimm set up the system, he immediately announced it to the guild. Happy's players went over to look and saw Blue Brook Guild's name everywhere in the rules. This information was quickly reported by Blue Brook Guild's spies. Blue River really wanted to smash his head into the wall. Chapter 528, beginning to take shape. "Oh, so that's what you meant. My bad." Yishu felt ashamed too. He really hadn't noticed that Blue Brook Guild's storage system rules had Blue Brook Guild's name written all over the place. Send me another copy, Yishu messaged Blue River. Why do you need another copy? Blue River was puzzled. I already deleted the first one, Yishu replied. Deleting it after using it. Another way of saying it was burning the bridge after crossing it. Blue River really didn't want to give him another copy, but he couldn't let him just shamelessly copy Blue Brook Guild's system word for word, could he? He didn't care about the plagiarism, he just didn't want anyone from Blue Brook Guild bothering him. Helpless, Blue River found the storage system document again, but he started having second thoughts. Once Yishu took the document, he would, at most, replace Blue Brook Guild's name with Guild Happy's. The spies would immediately recognize it and bother Blue Brook Guild about it. Blue River didn't want this information to stay stuck to him. He grinded his teeth and quickly deleted a bunch of parts in the document. Then, amidst Yishu's constant bothering, he sent it over. This document seems a bit different, Yishu replied. I changed it a bit, Blue River coldly replied. Not bad. It's even better than the previous one. You're quite the literary talent. Who wrote the last one? It was way too long-winded. So many words and so effeminate too. Not even web novelists can cheat the word count like that, Yishu said. I wrote that too, Blue River looked up at the sky. Oh, you've really got some literary talent. Do you have any interest in my guild, Happy? Our guild just happens to be missing a cultured person such as yourself, Yishu said. Blue River closed the chat window. Meanwhile, Yishu quickly swapped out the old system rules with the new ones and then tossed the desert badge into the guild storage. This level 50 orange equipment was placed in the guild storage's orange equipment stage 6. Players needed 6,000 guild contribution points in order to have access to orange equipment stage 6. Because the desert badge belonged to the guild, this badge couldn't be traded or discarded. However, it could still be dropped when the owner died. When a guild member lost the item in this way, there would usually be penalties, often in the form of guild contribution points. Some guilds even required a down payment for very valuable equipment. Every guild had their own way of managing their own storage. After Yishu placed the treasure into the storage, there were still 2 other pieces of equipment dropped by the Aquamarine Knight, both level 55 blue equipment. He threw those into the guild storage as well. Level 55 blue equipment had similar base stats to level 45 orange equipment. However, an equipment's value largely depended on the additional stats. As a result, a piece of equipment might not be high-leveled, but because of its amazing additional stats, it could be kept, even at high levels. These 2 level 55 blue equipment were fairly ordinary. It was easy to find equipment of this value from dungeons, so he put them into the storage's blue equipment stage 5, which only required 700 guild contribution points. The difference between blue and orange equipment could clearly be seen here. In reality, orange equipment wasn't 10 times stronger than blue equipment, but it was certainly much rarer. Bosses in dungeons always dropped blue equipment, so blue equipment would naturally be more common. After putting away the equipment, he explained how guild contribution worked to the guild members. He also gave Chen Guo's alternate account authority equivalent to the guild leader. The only power Chen Guo didn't have was removing the guild leader. It's not convenient for me to keep returning to the 10th server, so I'm giving you authority over the guild, Yishu said to Chen Guo. Don't give me the title of guild leader. Your name has to stay there for everyone to see, Chen Guo advised. I know that, Yishu nodded his head. We only have this one piece of orange equip in the guild storage. It's far from being enough. Chen Guo had been in a big guild before and knew the importance of the guild storage. In truth, not all of the players in club guilds were loyal fans. Quite a few knew that the guild storage for these clubs were wealthy, so they pretended to be fans in order to get in. In any case, it wasn't easy to distinguish between an actual fan and an actor. Everyone liked playing Glory. There were only so many pro teams. Whether or not they were fans, they all knew about the same as other players. I have a few materials here. You can go ahead and sell the ones that aren't so rare and buy some high-leveled equipment to help fill up our guild storage. Remember to buy high-leveled ones. The higher the better. Ignore the low-leveled ones. When the guild members start contributing, they'll put in low-leveled ones, Yishu said. You don't need the materials? I'm already in the heavenly domain. These materials still aren't that cheap in the current 10th server, so if you can sell them, it's best to sell them here. Later, if I need them, I can buy them again. It'll be cheaper later, Yi Shu said. Chen Guo immediately understood Yi Shu's reasoning. Without any delay, she followed Yi Shu's Lord Grimm and moved almost all of his 10th server personal storage to the guilds. You can sell some stuff from here too, Yi Shu said. Okay, Chen Guo nodded her head. Guild storages didn't only have equipment. They had materials, potions, anything. By providing all of these resources to the guild members, the guild could show the benefits of being in a guild. However, our high-leveled equipment can't only come from buying. We have to create an elite team and have them fill up the guild storage's upper levels, Yi Shu said. I can do this stuff. We have a few veterans in the guild. I'll pick out a few and see if we can create a few elite teams, Chen Guo said. Yi Shu nodded his head. He looked around. For now, there wasn't anything else to do, so he closed the guild interface. The Aquamarine Knight had dropped several material including the aquamarine. Of course, Yi Shu kept the aquamarine for himself. After all, it was the reason he had come back to the 10th server. This type of special material was almost always dropped. Wild bosses only spawned once a week. If the drop rate was too low, no one would be interested in the boss. As a result, wild bosses often dropped orange equipment and rare materials. If none of them dropped, then something else dropped, luck. After pocketing the aquamarine, Yi Shu didn't hurry back to the heavenly domain to upgrade his equipment. There were still a few things that he needed to do in the normal server before he returned. Even though he didn't gain any experience here, there were still a few required quests that he had to complete. These quests rewarded bonus skill points or extra stats. Yi Shu had piled up quite a few level 50 to 54 quests. He was already here, so he might as well clear them out. He searched up a guide and went to complete the quests. These quests weren't difficult for Yi Shu, but Chen Guo seemed excited, as if she were having even more fun than watching Yi Shu battle in PvP. Glory had such a large world. With a guide, Yi Shu didn't even need to move his hands sometimes, making it quite boring. Finishing up all of the required quests took up most of his day. Yi Shu was doing these quests for the end rewards, but Lord Grimm wouldn't get any experience from any of the previous segments of the quests, making it was all very tedious. Just when he finished all of these tedious quests, Steam Bun Invasion kindly invited him to dungeon together. Yi Shu felt like it had been a long time since he had last played with this little bro, so they partied up and dungeoned together for some equipment. The majority of day in the 10th server had gone to contributing to the guild. The guild's storage had filled up quite a lot now. None of them wanted any of the equipment dropped from the dungeons, so the equipment all went to the guild instead. Even though they were only blue equipments still had their advantages. They required fewer guild contribution points and usually made for quite decent equipment too. As for Chen Guo, after leaving some of the materials in the guild storage, she went to the market to sell the rest. She wasn't in a hurry and sold them off in small amounts. She didn't bother with the guilds or studios who bought materials in bulk at a low price. The big guild saw Chen Guo's chasing Haze selling materials and grinded their teeth in frustration. Who was chasing Haze? All of them knew. Guild Happy had spies, after all. She wasn't high-leveled, but she had a lot of authority in the guild. Where did she suddenly get all of those materials? The guilds immediately knew. Lord Grimm had earned it from them. He had earned it from them and now they had to buy them back. Just thinking about it made them flush with anger. However, materials were important to the clubs. If there were materials available to buy, then they had to get them, but when they went over to buy it from her, the price was high. No matter how high their priorities were, the guilds couldn't help but hesitate. If they bought their own materials back at such a high price, their faces would explode from anger. They just couldn't accept it. Helpless, they could only watch as these materials were sold off at a high price. Chen Guo wasn't in a hurry at all. She sold, while looking around the marketplace and bought equipment either with materials or with money she earned from selling the materials. Thus, the two sides busily worked for the entire day. When they checked up on the storage at night, they saw that the storage had changed greatly. The storage didn't only have the items they had put in initially. The guild members began understanding the benefits of the guild storage and made their own contributions to it. Potions, food. The guild storage was immediately filled with many subclass-created items. These items could be traded in for contribution points and taken out with contribution points. Once the items in the guild storage began circulating, it would gradually move onto the right track. Later on, no one would need to manage it anymore. It would operate smoothly on its own. The guild just had to make sure there were high-end goods inside. These items were difficult for normal players to get on their own. Only by putting in these types of goods into the guild storage would players make contributions. While earning guild contribution points, the player would be adding to the storage, which would circulate around. A guild could only grow prosperous with a strong guild storage as a foundation. Chapter 529, Spies Contributions. Comrades, work hard. I'll be waiting for all of you in the heavenly domain. Upon finishing his one-day visit to the 10th server, Yi Shu encouraged the players in his guild. The players laughed in response. None of them really took it too seriously. Only Steamed Bun Invasion, being the strange person he was, answered sincerely, "Boss, rest easy. I've got the 10th server covered. Good luck everyone." Yi Shu logged out. His return to the 10th server had only lasted for a short day, but it turned Guild Happy upside down. The establishment of the guild storage was a symbol. Without a mature guild storage, the guild could only be a regular guild that was just for fun. However, with a storage established, the guild would become more attractive to players and would become more cohesive as a whole. The change in Guild Happy was quickly reported back to the guild leaders by the spies. Still, nothing was as important as Lord Grimm returning to the heavenly domain. Upon hearing the news, the guild masters felt that their holiday was finally there. Guild Happy's storage was too easy to deal with. The guild masters were all snickering in the dark. "Lord Grimm, no matter how godly you are, you're being too careless this time." The next day, when Lord Grimm logged back in, Yi Shu was already back in heavenly domain. On the other hand, Chen Guo knew that building the storage was an important step for Guild Happy. There was some management required at the beginning, especially since she hadn't sold all the materials that Yi Shu had given her. She sold them in small amounts instead of in large bundles, so selling all of them was going to take a few days. Right after she logged in and opened up the management window of the storage, she received a system notification. She jumped in surprise when she glanced at the message and called Yi Shu. "It's too fast. Some people already have 6,000 contribution points. They're going to get the desert badge soon. What should I do?" Che Guo asked Yi Shu. Yi Shu tilted his head and glanced at Chen Guo before smiling, as expected. To be able to get 6,000 contribution point overnight, they must have donated a lot of things, Chen Guo concluded while running to the guild management place in the city center to check on the guild storage. Unsurprisingly, the storage had become much more filled. As for the donation records, as expected, the players with 6,000 contribution points each had a long list of items they had donated. "Haha, all of them are spies," Yi Shu explained. To have over 6,000 contribution points in one night, they definitely have one of the large guilds backing. "They're trying to cheat away our treasure," Yi Shu continued. Oh, Chen Guo immediately understood why Yi Shu had set the desert badge as a non-auto-distributed award. She also realized that Yi Shu had expected many to gain 6,000 contribution points so quickly. Rotten B** stards. Let's kick them all out. Chen Guo was outraged, yet excited. Their scheme had been seen through. If they got kicked out now, then it would mean that they donated items and helped Guild Happy grow for nothing. Just thinking about these people's reactions after they got kicked out filled Chen Guo with happiness. Don't. There are definitely spies, but there might be a few special cases. Kicking them all out might end up in us punishing the wrong people, Yi Shu replied. Then what do? We can't drag it out forever. The system has a time limit. If no player with authority distributed the reward within the set time frame, then the system would automatically distribute it. Who currently has the highest level in the guild? Yi Shu asked. Tang Ru's soft mist, Chen Guo answered. Give her some materials so that she can easily rack up 6,000 contribution points. Let her take the desert badge, then send out a guild-wide announcement. Tell them that there were a lot people who sent in requests, so the guild gave the matter some consideration and awarded it to the player with the highest level, soft mist. This way, there shouldn't be any objections. Yi Shu laid out the plan. Shameless, Chen Guo exclaimed, then followed with a question, what if someone says he or she was there first? Nonsense. If order mattered in the first place, why would we set the distribution system as mandatory? If someone messages you with such nonsense logic, then educate him properly, Yi Shu replied. Chen Guo was speechless after that. She found Tang Ru and explained the plan. Tang Ru had no objections whatsoever, making Chen Guo feel that this girl had truly found the wrong teacher. She didn't learn anything honorable. Chen Guo asked Tang Ru how many points she still needed. An answer shocked her. You only need that little, Chen Guo asked again. Tang Ru suddenly understood. No wonder he asked me to donate all of the items from yesterday's dungeon. So you had this all planned out from the start. Chen Guo turned her gaze onto Yi Shu. It's only to be expected. If it was a well-developed big guild, then this kind of trick would be totally useless. There are a lot of things in the storage, so it wouldn't hurt the guild too much. However, we just started. If they took the desert badge like that, then it would really be a huge loss for us, so I took some precautions. Yi Shu elaborated. As he spoke, Chen Guo met up with Tang Ru in-game. After she got the materials, Tang Ru soon had 6,000 contribution points. She then proceeded to take the desert badge. Whether the award was distributed by the system or a player wasn't shown unless someone with authority willed it. To Tang Ru, who had 6,000 contribution points, the emblem was already unlocked. It was only when she tried to take it did the system notify her that a request had been submitted and there would be a reply within 48 hours, no matter what. Chen Guo received the message and acted right away. The desert badge was given to Tang Ru without any delay. Chen Guo also sent out an announcement in the guild chat. Just as Yi Shu said, it reasoned that due to the numerous requests, the badge was given to the player of the highest level. You should also urge everyone to learn from these people. Don't forget to encourage people to level up. There are benefits to having a higher level. Soft Mist is a perfect example. Yi Shu instructed Chen Guo to add more content to the announcement. When the announcement was posted, a lot of people among the request list found themselves choking. After waiting restlessly for an entire night, they couldn't have dreamed of such a result. These people were, naturally, the spies from other guilds. If they had been regular players, level priority would have been a perfectly sensible reason. In addition, the contribution points they gained were still useful, so they didn't lose anything in donating items. It was only the spies who were dying of bitterness because they had helped Guild Happy grow for utterly nothing in return. When the news traveled back to the guild masters, the only thing that changed was that an increased number of people were now bitter. Had Lord Grimm been careless? Apparently not. It was them who had been careless. Mandatory distribution and level priority were all it took to cheat more items out of them. How about we get our guys to hurry up and level so that we can surpass Soft Mist, then we can get that desert badge easily. Someone was still trying, unwilling to give up. What kind of idiot are you? This situation is proof that they were prepared for these types of tricks. Trying more schemes is simply a waste of time. The man who proposed the idea got scolded right away. Why don't I take equipment out? Then you guys can steal it, a spy suggested. Wouldn't that expose your identity? Boss, based on the current situation, do I look like I'm not exposed? The spy lamented. A long silence settled upon the participating guild leaders and spies. They realized that, no matter what they did, they wouldn't be able to do anything to harm Guild Happy. As for Guild Happy, besides the bitter group of spies, other people had no disagreement against giving the desert badge to the highest leveled Soft Mist. Instead, they were very curious about the people who got 6,000 contribution points at this extraordinary speed and went to visit these people. The poor spies were still worrying with their own guilds like idiots when the crowd from Guild Happy came, praising them like heroes. There were no words that could describe their conflicted hearts in that moment. Yi Shu's Lord Grimm had long since returned to the heavenly domain. He didn't pay any more attention to the matter after instructing Chen Guo on how to fix the mess. He put the aquamarine and other materials that Mo Qian had helped to gather all into the equipment editor. Yi Shu was ready to upgrade the 1000 Chance umbrella to its level 50 form. For this upgrade, even the window of the editor was different from before. The parts were no longer just simple parts like the sword, spear, rifle, and the umbrella. The tedious blueprint separated the 1000 Chance umbrella into tiny individual components to be reassembled later. These parts all had templates from earlier trials. Yi Shu checked every materials carefully, replicating them one by one. However, when the only material left was the aquamarine, Yi Shu had ran out of templates. There wasn't one for the component that the aquamarine was supposed to be molded into. Yi Shu sighed softly. Truthfully, the 1000-chance umbrella hadn't been a completely successful weapon in the first place. Otherwise, instead of a level 5 prototype, what should have been left from the research years ago would be a level 50,000-chance umbrella. The reason behind that year's failure was the problem with trying to find the last material. Trial after trial had failed on the last component. Still, every failure meant one step closer to success. This was because they had already determined all of the possible materials. With every failure, they could eliminate a possibility. Aquamarine was the only material that hadn't been tried. Regretfully, before they could carry out the final trial, glory killed the brilliance behind the 1000-chance umbrella's existence. Now, so many years after, Yi Shu was finally here to complete this unfinished step from that time. Unable to calm himself, he went through 3 cigarettes before he returned to the room. After taking a deep breath, Yi Shu settled himself in front of his computer. Without a template, he needed to forge the component himself. The performance required wasn't as complicated as combat in the game, but it had no tolerance for the slightest mistake. Even the smallest error would destroy the material completely. Otherwise, why would people call the equipment editor a bottomless void for money? So it begins. Yi Shu noted in his heart, clicked open the polishing window for materials, and put the aquamarine into the slot. Chapter 530, Level 50,000 Chance Umbrella. Chen Guo saw what Yi Shu was going to do. Equipment editor. All Glory players had access to it, but very few knew how to actually use it. Chen Guo had obviously tried it before, but she just didn't get it. In the end, her attempts had only resulted in wasted materials and equipment. The equipment editor wasn't really complicated. It was just a tool, like a pen. Everyone knew how to use a pen. However, some people could use it to write novels, while some could use it to draw pictures. The key was what one could do with the tool. Chen Guo had stopped at the using the pen stage. As for creating literature or drawings, she had just been going in blind. In the beginning, Yi Shu simply used a template and placed the materials accordingly. As long as he had the correct materials, everything else was simple, but now, after using the polisher, Chen Guo's eyes lit up. This time, Yi Shu would truly be using the equipment editor to polish a material. Even though Chen Guo couldn't use the equipment editor, she at least knew that he couldn't be careless here, so she didn't say anything and only gave furtive glances to size up the situation. Yi Shu put in the aquamarine into the polisher and immediately began working. Cut, drill, string, smooth. Chen Guo had played around with these functions before, but she had just been doing it randomly to a piece of material. On the other hand, Yi Shu clearly had a plan and a goal. He gradually shaped the aquamarine. It couldn't be shaped using a simple circle or rectangle function. It would be shaped according to the operator's desires until it became a completed component. It had a core for structural stability and places to link together with other components. Movable area, immovable areas, areas with limited movements. The structure of the aquamarine became more and more complex and delicate. All of this was done by Yi Shu through the polisher. Simple techniques produced miraculous results. So miraculous that Chen Guo even had a hard time believing it. Half an hour passed. The polishing for the aquamarine took a full half an hour. When Yi Shu suddenly stopped, Chen Guo snapped out of her daze. She had been watching out of the corner of her eye for the entire half hour. When she came out of her daze, her eyes felt a bit sore. Watching from the corner of one's eyes for a long time was very draining. When she saw Yi Shu stop operating the polisher, she waited for a moment before asking, "Is it done?" Yi Shu nodded his head, "It's done." Then, he took out the polished aquamarine and placed it with the other materials. He opened up the interface for adding the materials into the weapon. The 1000-chance umbrella's many parts, as well as the dazzling lineup of materials, lay there. Yi Shu didn't hurry up and begin. He took a rest, while opening up a document from his email. Chen Guo looked and saw that it was the blueprints for the 1000-chance umbrella. She immediately turned her head back to her screen. This sort of thing was very secretive in the glory scene. It was like a secret martial arts book. It wasn't right to look at it without the owner's permission. "It doesn't matter. If you want to look, you can look," Yi Shu smiled. "Can I really? When I was polishing the materials, you didn't avoid watching either." What's so different about this? Yi Shu said. Chen Guo stared blankly and immediately felt very embarrassed. I forgot. I'm sorry, Chen Guo sincerely apologized. If she couldn't look at the blueprint, then it meant she couldn't look at the upgrade process either. Chen Guo had forgotten about this, but it was also because she didn't have any intention of stealing his knowledge or anything like that. I said it doesn't matter, Yi Shu said. You're going to assemble the 1000 chance umbrella? Chen Guo felt too ashamed to sneakily watch, so she changed the subject. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at the blueprint again, Yi Shu said. Good luck, Chen Guo said. She had already turned her head back. This time, she wouldn't glance at him working at all. Yi Shu smiled and didn't say anything. He didn't care if she looked and he obviously didn't care if she didn't look. He carefully studied the 1000 chance umbrella's level 50 blueprint again. With the 1000 chance umbrella's complexity, learning the flow chart for it was impossible. Yi Shu branded the theory and its applications to the umbrella into his mind. Remembering the fundamentals would save him time and lead to better results. After reviewing the flowchart, Yi Shu didn't take out a cigarette to relax and quickly began assembling the level 50 umbrella. The room became extremely quiet. There would usually be some noise from Chen Guo and Tang Ru playing the game, but at this moment, no sound could be heard from them. They weren't trying not to make any noise, but rather they deliberately gave Yi Shu an environment where he could fully focus. Ka-ka, ka-ka. In the room, only Yi Shu's mouse could be heard. One step at a time, without any margin for error. After a short moment, it was time to put the aquamarine into it. Unsuitable materials could be polished into the correct shape, but when placed into the desired equipment, the equipment would fail. If one were unlucky, the equipment would be damaged in the process. If one were lucky, the equipment could still maintain its form. However, the equipment would soon break after a few uses. With the 1000 chance umbrella's complex parts, if a single component failed, everything would fail. The creator had analyzed the structure of each part separately. The results of the analysis appeared in the previous forms of the 1000 chance umbrella. This saved a lot of effort in manufacturing it. However, this couldn't be done for the completed form. Ka. Yi Shu didn't hesitate when putting in the aquamarine and accurately planted it into the weapon. A light comfortable sound rang in his ears. It was the sound set to notify the user that the placement was successful. Yi Shu didn't pause to take a break. The aquamarine was only one piece and not the end. He continued according to the flowchart. He spent another half-hour assembling it. After hearing Yi Shu let out a sigh of relief, Chen Guo stopped herself from turning her head to look until she heard Yi Shu personally say, "It's done." Was it a success? Chen Guo turned her head over. Even Tang Ru stole a glance. I'll have to try it out to see, Yi Shu said. He exited the equipment editor and returned to the game. Chen Guo anxiously watched. At the same time, she was somewhat curious about the wonders of this level 50,000 chance umbrella. Who knew that when Yi Shu went back to the game and picked up his 1000 chance umbrella, he didn't look for any monsters. He just swiped at the air a few times and then nodded his head. It's a success. That's done? It's done, Yi Shu exclaimed. Just a few swipes? You're certain there's no problem? Chen Guo doubted. It sounds like you were hoping there would be problems, Yi Shu asked. No, it's just that, isn't your inspection too careless? Chen Guo questioned. Ah, that's what you mean. What did you think I would do? Yi Shu swiped at the air some more. See, there aren't any loose parts. It's a big success. No loose parts. Chen Guo was considering whether she should go into her Heavenly Domain account and run over to admire the 1000 chance umbrella's might, but if the end result was just no loose parts, what was there to admire? Let me see the stats, Chen Guo said. Yi Shu opened up his weapon's profile. Chen Guo looked and saw a lot of words. If she recalled correctly, in the beginning, the 1000 chance umbrella didn't have anything except for the basic stats. Even though the stats surpassed those of an orange weapon at the same level, without any additional stats, this weapon wouldn't be very good. It would be at the same level as the lowest ranked white equipment, which had no additional stats. But this 1000 chance umbrella had quite a few additional stats. The 1000 chance umbrella was currently in its umbrella form. It had 535 physical attack and 535 magic attack. It also added 10 to stamina, strength, intelligence, and spirit. The same magic and physical attack and +10 to all 4 main stats. With just this, Chen Guo could tell that this 1000 chance umbrella could be comparable to a pro-level weapon. This was a feature that scepters had, which knights often used. Apart from the +10 to the 4 main stats, Chen Guo continued to look down and thought of another issue. Do all of the 1000 chance umbrella's forms have different stats? Yeah, Yi Shu said, and had the 1000 chance umbrella switch to the spear form. It added +41 to strength. Then what are your overall stats? Chen Guo cried out in alarm. Yi Shu was a bit startled, but quickly figured out why Chen Guo was so alarmed. He opened up his character profile. It seems pretty normal. Chen Guo hesitated. After all, when facing a god, she was afraid that she had misinterpreted something because her skill level wasn't high enough. Right when she finished, Lord Grimm's stats suddenly changed. His strength decreased and his intelligence increased. This, Chen Guo looked. Lord Grimm's 1000 chance umbrella had changed forms. She immediately understood. It's not that every weapon gives you permanent stats? Of course not, Yi Shu said. The stats depends on the form of the weapon being used. You can't have all of the form's additional stats added up together? Chen Guo felt like if that could happen, then it would be incredible. Wasn't it a single weapon? All the stats were there, so perhaps there was a way to sum them all up? If that were possible, then why would I need additional stats? My base attack would be ridiculous, Yi Shu said. Oh, Chen Guo didn't say anything. Sure enough, her imagination had gone too far.